Next panel, we'll hear from Dewan Collins, Jackie Gostigan, Claire Thomas, and Genevieve Wong.
All right, you may begin in whichever order.
Is it on? Okay. My name is Jackie Gazdagian, and I'm the Senior Supervising Policy Counsel with Brooklyn Defender Services. I want to thank the Committee on Public Safety and Chair Salam for holding this critical hearing. The NYPD Commissioner can and regularly does reject or downgrade CCRB and internal NYPD recommendations for officer misconduct. In light of the demonstrated inefficacy of the current system at reining in police abuse, neglect, and biased policing, the City Council should explore utilizing every option at its disposal to allow for a more active role for the council in the selection and approval of the NYPD commissioner and removing the police commissioner's final authority over NYPD discipline. As the council is aware, there has been a surge of NYPD in-custody deaths, and NYPD has not been held accountable for the lives lost. Part of this conversation includes accountability and oversight of NYPD's unlawful police-citizen encounters, use of broken windows policing, increasing policing of poverty, and unlawful use of custodial arrests. Because these tactics and policies increase the risk of custodial arrest, they also increase the risk of inability to access medical care in NYPD custody. NYPD is increasing its policing of poverty, and what's compounding this is that NYPD continues to routinely violate criminal procedure law when they're failing to issue appearance tickets in lieu of arresting individuals for low-level offenses. Custodial arrests for these low-level offenses are on the rise, and according to our arraignment supervisors, desk appearance tickets are down to about a third of what they used to be. One problem in particular is that NYPD has its own exceptions to issuing desk appearance tickets in the patrol guide. Specifically, these exceptions include something like not having a verifiable address. Many of these low-level cases are also not bail eligible, so that means that the person will be in the custody of NYPD and then released after arraignment. NYPD, however, claims that while they are in custody, they still need to be accompanied by an NYPD officer to receive medical treatment. I'll just sum up this paragraph, or go to the hospital. NYPD claims that they don't have enough officers to provide escorts, even if there is an ambulance on site, so people in custody are not receiving medical care. And now NYPD officers are asking attorneys to rush through their cases in arraignments because NYPD is going to wait on providing medical treatment until after the person is arraigned. So either DOC can take custody of the person or the judge will release them from NYPD custody. Also, NYPD officers can avoid having to escort someone to receive medical treatment and pass liability and responsibility for care onto someone else. We thank the council for the opportunity to testify and for addressing the lack of oversight and accountability of NYPD practices related to police-citizen encounters, custodial detention and arrest, and the crisis of deaths in NYPD custody. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Claire Thomas. I'm a public defender with Legal Aid Society Brooklyn Trial Office, and I represented Christopher Nieves, who was the most recent person to die in NYPD custody. Today, I will share my experience in arraignments on August 29th to highlight the impact that a culture of impunity and lack of accountability creates, a police department that refuses to recognize the dignity and humanity of the people that they have dragged into their custody. Deprivation of liberty should not result in deprivation of life. On August 29th, I arrived at criminal court arraignments and picked up the file for Mr. Nieves, who was being detained after being arrested for taking food from Whole Foods, a low-level offense. At around 5 p.m., I went to the holding area, which is controlled by NYPD, and it's behind the courtroom, to speak with Mr. Nieves. This area is grim, dirty, generally always crowded, has a lack of seating, which often forces people to have to sit on the floor for hours at a time. There were at least 3 NYPD officers there that night. When I met Mr. Nieves, I immediately realized that he wasn't well. His skin was a sickly yellow color, he was disoriented, and he told me he had just been in the hospital for a few months being treated for a staph infection. He then showed me his foot, which was all bandaged up, and he was very clearly in pain. There was a real possibility that bail would be set. Despite the charges being low level, the DA was requesting bail, which would force Mr. Nieves to go to Rikers. I wanted to ensure that Mr. Nieves would go to the hospital, not Rikers, so I told the arraignment ADA that he needed immediate medical assistance. The ADAs were both unperturbed and insisted that they would request bail anyway. While trying to negotiate a favorable outcome for Mr. Nieves, I continued to check on him and his condition. Each time, and with NYPD officers present in the holding area, I saw him lying on the ground on his side. A few people in the back told me that they were worried about him because he kept passing out. At around 6:45, just wrapping up, sorry, I advised Mr. Nieves to ask NYPD to be taken to the hospital. I checked in with NYPD as well shortly after, and they told me they were handling it. It wasn't until closer to midnight that I heard anything else. One of the NYPD officers came into the courtroom requesting Mr. Nieves' file. I asked her if Mr. Nieves hadn't in fact been brought to the hospital. She didn't say anything and just made this gesture towards me like she was cutting her throat. She then walked away from us without saying anything else. It was deeply disturbing, but I didn't assume the worst because I'd already been told he had been brought to the hospital hours ago. So I finished the shift, I went home, we never heard anything, and the next day I found out from Instagram that he had died in the courthouse that night. Mr. Nieves died alone in a cell after 10 p.m., hours after he and I both requested that he receive medical attention, but NYPD refused to give him the medical help that could have saved his life. I'm calling on the City Council to please hold NYPD responsible for Mr. Nieves' death. I'm demanding that not another life is lost by NYPD's failure to act and by the city's inability to hold officers accountable and responsible for misconduct, especially when either action or inaction results in death of one of our community members. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
And for those of you who have run out of time that had more testimony to speak on, definitely please submit that testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov. My question is, and I don't know this. I'm a person who, of course, as you all may know, was arrested and sent to prison for a crime that I didn't commit. But I don't know the answer to this question. Do you know if there is an opportunity for individuals being held in police custody to eat? And I'm asking that because I know if you're on Rikers Island, yes, there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner served and so forth and so on. But I'm just wondering, because it's occurring to me that when it's a low-level offense like someone stealing food, is there food at the precinct?
They have bags of peanut butter jelly sandwiches and water.
So there is.
That's it. And yeah, spoiled usually. That's about
I've seen it to be like ham and cheese that isn't refrigerated. So I don't
So
think
non-refrigerated,
Yes.
spoiled milk or, wow.
The patrol guide does require that officers honor requests for food and water, especially within the NYPD holding cells even before they make it to central booking. But oftentimes our clients have reported to us the poor condition of the foods that they've had, sometimes completely inedible. They've often been served milk that has gone bad, food that has been left out, ham and cheese sandwiches that have gone bad, or not having their own dietary restrictions honored. And there have been multiple reports of that kind of treatment. Also multiple reports of when they request water, sometimes they get water in like the tiniest cup, or sometimes they only get it once. Oftentimes our clients are also quite afraid that they might have their DNA collected surreptitiously by the NYPD if they even accept water or some other beverage from the NYPD in the NYPD holding cells.
Not to mention that the holding cells are.
Your microphone.
Not to mention that the holding cells are very nasty. Bugs, rodents, feces in the toilet because it's clogged up. The water doesn't work in its holding cells, so it's very decrepit in there. Wow,
I thought conditions might have changed since 36 years ago. I was introduced to the system. But thank you for your answer to my question.
I just wanted to add one more thing to that question and one more part of the answer to your question. Things should have changed because they have been sued previously for the conditions in pre-arraignment holdings. And there is a settlement in place where they were supposed to ensure some basic dignity in the pre-arraignment holding areas. But the consistency of their compliance with that settlement has been, I would say at best, poor.
Thank you. And if you have testimony, I know he said ladies first, so I'm just,
Yes, thank you.
Chair, may I before?
Yes.
I just want to say, can you remind me your name, the attorney for Mr. Nieves?
Claire Thomas.
Yeah. what happened to Mr. Nieves is just disgustingly horrific. But I also want to point out that the effects of this go much further. I was in your position not that long ago, and I remember, I'm pretty sure it was in my first year of being a defender, I was working a night court arraignment shift, and there was a client in the back who, during the shift, attempted to hang himself. And everything had to stop, and all the court officers had to run into the back to take him down from the belt that he was hanging from. And it is just a horrifically traumatic experience for the people who work and advocate for these folks as well. So I am sorry that you experienced that you're continuing to have to process that and deal with that. I hope that you get any support that you need. Like vicarious trauma is very, very real. And I just want to make a finer point of establishing that, the deaths in and of themselves are horrific and must stop. But the pain and the trauma and the impact is felt by a wide set of folks, and it certainly affects the work that you're trying to do every day. So I'm sorry.
My name is Jen Vin Wong. I'm a supervising attorney with the Cop Accountability Project within the Legal Aid Society. And as we've heard just now, as public defenders, we are witnesses to the impact that police misconduct can have on a person's liberty and ability to live with dignity. I want to point out for this council, first and foremost, that we are now over a decade since the decision in the stop and frisk litigation. NYPD is still under federal monitorship, not in compliance. And our public defenders across all 5 boroughs continue to hear about rampant harassment and unconstitutional stops and frisks by NYPD officers every day. I will note that we have submitted written testimony that details our recommendations to strengthen accountability more broadly, as well as our 10-point plan that we released with our sister defender organizations this morning. But I would like to take the opportunity to highlight the growing crisis we face today, and that it is a part of a larger history of NYPD's culture of impunity. We've noted that 40 people have died in NYPD custody in 2023 and 2024, the highest 2-year toll in nearly a decade. And this year alone, at least 9 people have tragically lost their lives, including legal aid clients while in the custody of NYPD. And despite those deaths, NYPD still has yet to provide any comprehensive information about it or the steps that they're taking to prevent similar tragedies. Now, I want to note that in stark contrast after the repeal of 50A, the CCRB made a wealth of information available to the public in order for the public to meaningfully and analyze how misconduct was being treated in this city. In stark contrast, NYPD has not done so. And in fact, to this day, they still have not done so. They have released select information that they have deemed important to the public, but they have not released information that we need to assess their effective, whether or not the disciplinary system is effective or not. We've heard a lot about the Force Investigation Divisions, and I want to highlight that we don't know anything about the Force Investigation Division investigations generally because we don't have that information. It's not posted publicly. What we do know is public reporting, and from many of the families of these high-profile deaths, we have learned that FID investigations have been deficient, to put it shortly. FID was created 10 years ago to restore public trust, but it has failed to do so. And I want to note that the FID was actually created as a response to the death of Eric Garner. And now, after all of these additional deaths over the past 10 years, so many high-profile deaths, FID investigations are still deficient. And so that is why the Legal Aid Society is calling for an independent agency to be the primary investigator in these instances, because NYPD cannot be trusted to police itself. One last thing I wanted to note, and it is in our written testimony, so I'll wrap up very shortly. From 2021 until today, there have been 46 substantiated cases for failure to render medical aid. The most common penalty for that was less than 5 days. That's it. Failure to render medical aid should be serious misconduct, and it should be treated as such. Less than 5 penalty days shows a disregard for the fact that people who are in NYPD custody, who are entirely reliant on NYPD to render medical aid and to make sure they get medical assistance, they're not doing it. NYPD is not taking this seriously. Thank you for the time today. I wanted to just say that the current administration's revival of broken windows policing is what coincides with all of these increases of misconduct complaints and of these high-profile deaths.
Thank you for your testimony. You may begin.
First of all, I want to say thank you, Councilmember Salam, and members of the Public Safety Committee for allowing me to be here to testify today. My name is DeJuan Collins, and I'm a Civil Rights Union leader with Vocal New York. Misconduct in the NYPD is out of control. It's unchecked and a massive abuse of power, from fabricating felony complaints to body cam footage and manufacturing evidence. Anything else they need to justify an arrest to shape their narrative to bring it to their final conclusion. I have experienced NYPD misconduct firsthand for the 34th Precinct in my own case. A now retired sergeant of the NYPD, Lorraine Ramos, falsely accused me of strangling my ex-girlfriend in 2018 to the point of unconsciousness. That never happened. Ramos has a history of fabricating felony complaints, from civil cases for Malik Stewart versus the NYPD, 19 CV 05499, and Collins versus the NYPD, 19 CV 7156, and internal NYPD records. Yet despite this, Ramos' treachery was covered up in a lawsuit in the Stewart case where the city of New York settled. Ramos was promoted to sergeant soon after my arrest and allowed to retire with his sergeant's pension at the taxpayer's expense. Is it just for the NYPD officer that allegedly fabricated felony complaints to be promoted to sergeant and allowed to retire with the pension at the taxpayer's expense? Is it just for the Manhattan District Attorney to prosecute a fabricated felony complaint by the NYPD? Is it just for the New Yorkers to pay millions of dollars in settlement suits due to intentional misconduct by the NYPD? According to a 2025 analysis data released by the Legal Aid Society, from 2018 to 2024, it cost New Yorkers approximately $750 million in alleged misconduct lawsuits. Misconduct in the NYPD works hand in hand with misconduct in the DA's office. Once police fabricate their records, the very public servants that are supposed to intervene to prevent a constitutional violation go along with the status quo of doing business as usual because of a benefit promise or received or fear of reprisal or loss of a benefit. As a result of the misconduct, a cover-up ensues by other agencies. A wrongful conviction is born and black or brown families are destroyed, like mine's. This misconduct happens constantly because there aren't any real oversight committee with final and binding authority over the Commissioner of New York, over the Commissioner of the NYPD. No checks and balances for police officers. They have qualified immunity, complete cooperations from other city agencies. The idea of even giving the average citizen qualified immunity, protecting them from accountability due to the levels of crimes perpetrated upon innocent New Yorkers for their constitutional rights being violated, will receive disdain, scoffing, and ridicule, would it not? There's no respect for the rule of law in New York when it comes to the NYPD. They feel they're above the law because when it comes to the police, they feel they're above the law because no one would hold the police accountable. And there's definitely no equal protection of the law. To allow NYPD unfettered power over the citizens of New York is to abolish the rights of New Yorkers. Let's face it, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Even when cops are held accountable, which is rare, their discipline is only a slap on the wrist. If a doctor commits medical negligence, they lose their license.
I do have a question, being that the time has expired. Are there any recommendations that you offer as a representative of the people that you are representing as well?
Oh, yes, we have a recommendation to support our bill to end qualified immunity. That is one. Another recommendation
And
is...
do you have that bill number just so that it's part of the testimony?
I can get
If not, you can get it to us.
Yeah,
and
I can
I'll
get it
on.
for you. So that's one of the recommendations. Another recommendation is to strip the commissioner of their final making decision authority when it comes to police misconduct. So if I can continue.
Well, actually, because the time did expire, I just kind of wanted you to wrap if you could, because we do have the standard of 2 minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
And we do also offer the testimony to definitely be included in the transcript. So it's not like it wouldn't be, but that's why I wanted to maybe ask that question. And if there is a way to summarize as you end, that'd be perfect.
All
And
right,
then
well,
also submit your testimony.
Okay. So I just want to say in closing this, I want to leave with this famous dissenting opinion from Justice Louis Brandeis in the Olmstead decision of 1928. If the government becomes a lawbreaker, it breeds contempt for the law. It invites every man to become a law unto himself. It invites anarchy. Olmstead versus United States, 277 U.S. 438 at 485. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. If there are no questions, thank you for your testimony.
Next panel, we'll hear from Alyssa Johnson, Brian Entropes, Barbara Manu, and Yvonne Jennings. After this panel, we'll be moving to Zoom testimony.
Good afternoon, and thank you for organizing this important hearing. My name is Alyssa Johnson, and I'm a legal fellow with the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project. The Surveillance Technology Oversight Project is a civil rights and anti-surveillance group that advocates and litigates against discriminatory surveillance. Lack of meaningful oversight for NYPD misconduct harms all of us and costs lives. It also hamstrings attempts to hold police accountable for misuse of surveillance technologies, such as pervasive over-policing of communities of color using technologies like ShotSpotter, identification and tracking of protesters using drones, circumventions of prohibitions on facial recognition technology by outsourcing requests to other departments like FDNY, and continued noncompliance with the post-tax reporting requirements. Under existing toothless disciplinary procedures, NYPD officers feel empowered to violate our civil liberties, secure in the knowledge that it will likely cost them, at worst, a handful of vacation days. STOP joins other advocates testifying today in asking the City Council to implement major reforms to disciplinary processes. Among them, we ask that NYPD be required to promptly charge officers upon confirmation of charges by the CCRB to avoid delays and hitting the statute of limitations. We also ask that the City Council reissue a resolution similar to Resolution 1538, urging that the legislature pass a bill giving final adjudicatory authority over discipline to the CCRB rather than the police commissioner. We also recommend, as CCRB requested today, that they be granted direct access to NYPD camera footage and other evidence. Fourth, we also recommend that the council continue to allocate increased funds for staffing at CCRB. And finally, we'd ask that the city take steps to end police officers' qualified immunity in civil suits. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you as well. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Ehrenpreis, and I'm an attorney with New York County Defender Services. I'm here to talk to you all today because two men that I knew and represented can't speak for themselves. Those men were named Musa Satin and Diallo Ibrahim. Both of these men died in the custody of the NYPD this year. One of them died in an arraignment holding cell several blocks that way, 100 Center Street, and the other died in an NYPD holding cell in a Midtown precinct. The deaths of both of these men are directly attributable to a culture of apathy and neglect and impunity in the NYPD. This is a culture that the CCRB can do something about. And I'm here to tell you all that we are at a crisis point in terms of these in custody deaths. And those of us who are attorneys on the front lines of this system have known that for some time now. Any public defender in any borough of the city will tell you that they've arraigned too many clients who are sick, who are experiencing dangerous medical symptoms, who are in a mental health crisis, or are dealing with untreated injuries from an arrest by the NYPD. This overwhelmingly sick group of individuals is then forced to sit in a squalid cage in the custody of the NYPD, oftentimes upwards of 24 hours before they even see a judge. There are no medical personnel on site to attend to our clients' medical needs during this time. There are no doctors on site making sure our clients don't die. And the NYPD doesn't care to do this, nor are they qualified to do so. I have personally arraigned clients with bloody faces with open wounds. I've arraigned clients too weak to even stand up in front of the judge. And there are few public defenders in the city without a story of this kind. Our clients are uniquely vulnerable in terms of their health. And such a blatant disregard of their needs by the NYPD, it's no wonder people are dying at an alarming rate. Why would the NYPD have any incentive to change this, to investigate this, when they themselves are the ones doing the investigation? As you know, it's the Forced Investigation Division that does this. They're accountable only to themselves, and we don't see that information. This is not an acceptable situation, and the City Council does not have to accept it. The City Council must require the CCRB to investigate automatically these in-custody deaths whenever they occur. That is one of the only ways we're going to get to the truth of these incidents and prevent them from occurring again, and to break this cycle of neglect and apathy that is increasingly transforming an arrest in New York City into a death sentence. Thank you.
And thank you as well. You may begin. Yeah, just press the button to the, yes.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry about that mix-up. My name is Lauren Carbajal, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Legal Defense Fund. I'm an assistant counsel there. We thank the committee for the opportunity to provide testimony today. Today, we're calling on the City Council to empower the CCRB, particularly its Racial Profiling and Bias-Based Policing Unit, to carry out its important mission of investigating and issuing findings related to biased policing. First, the CCRB must be fully staffed and funded. CCRB suffers from a lack of resources to effectively hold the NYPD accountable, and they face an increasing amount of complaints each year, yet their budget and headcount have not correspondingly increased. This makes it impossible to keep up with a growing caseload, which could allow misconduct to go unaddressed. We appreciate the City Council's recognition of the importance of a fully funded CCRB and racial profiling unit, as evidenced by its 2024 request to increase CCRB's baseline by $15 million. We urge you to stand strong in such requests. The racial profiling unit also needs direct, unfettered access to NYPD databases and records. Currently, the CCRB must formally request that data, such as body camera footage, complaint histories, performance evaluations, and data sets on past conduct from the NYPD itself. And they are only entitled to access such data within 1 year preceding the events alleged in a complaint. This is insufficient for the RPBP unit to conduct a meaningful analysis. When access to information is blocked or constrained to such a short time frame, these investigations are severely hindered. The RPBP unit can be a powerful tool to ensure that officers engaging in racial profiling and discriminatory, unconstitutional conduct are held accountable. The City Council must ensure that it can fulfill its mandate. Finally, for decades, the NYPD has ignored or undermined CCRB recommendations, which disproportionately harms Black communities. The NYPD substantiates only about 10% of CCRB recommendations, leaving the vast majority of misconduct unaddressed, especially racial profiling complaints. I'm almost finished. The NYPD's refusal to discipline officers, even when the CCRB substantiates misconduct, is not only an abstract failure, it is a devastating trauma for families. Too many Black New Yorkers have buried loved ones while watching the officers responsible remain in uniform. The family of Alan Felice was very recently confronted by the NYPD's decision not to impose discipline, even where the CCRB substantiated claims of officer misconduct. As the primary oversight body of the NYPD, the City Council must ensure that these instances of violence and miscarriages of justice stop. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you as well. You may begin.
Hello, sir. I've spoke here at least 3 times, public safety. And Jonathan Darsh I met with years ago. The stalking of me by this cult started May 11, 2006, drug-related. I don't do drugs. It turns out I had a client, rich clients I had, who had a part of a cartel. I don't do drugs. I reached out to all of y'all for help, got nothing. I came to your wonderful office, sir, you saw last year, and showed some letters that have gone to the White House. They're 5,000 plus. I just showed them to Ms. Cavan, and I said to her, the letters are not nothing. And the email is now on overtime to Wallace and Levitt, Pam Bondi, Kaz is his name, Matt Frazier, what's her name, Varlak, the chief of staff to the mayor, all get the same email. They'll be on overtime to everyone, and they're resent. I'm being electrocuted by the man over me. I went to the 47th precinct on this 16th Tuesday. They were horrendous to me. And I am where I am now, unless you piss me off. I get really not nice. The next day I had to go to the hospital to have a cardio, and I almost fainted by the elevator. I went to NAN on Saturday, National Action Network. There's a young man that was back there. and I reached out to some people there. But the piece de resistance is on the 1st of August, I almost had my third heart attack. My second heart attack was caused by the man upstairs, along with almost a third. And that one, my pressure was 156 in the ambulance. In the hospital, it went to 216 over 109 at 3:27 a.m., of which they marched around in there. It was a Tuesday. It wasn't busy. No one was in there. And they left me to die. So what I just said to you, I'm not saying tenth of any of this. I fear for my life and safety, and I had reached out to you, tried to speak to you privately for like 10 minutes to show you some letters that were given to your Herrera? Yes, last year, right after my heart attack. Very important, the letters that went to Biden. Yes, I ask again, could you spare 10 minutes of your time sometime that we could talk? Very urgent. Thank you. Because I really don't know what to do. Because I reached the CCRB, that's Jonathan Darsh. And I reached out to him the start of 2006. I reached out to him probably, how old is his child? When his child was 3 or 4. But they don't handle stalking. No one does. But I'm just sitting watching. When I leave here, I'm harassed horrendously. And I'm always at the camera. So we got a problem. I don't understand. So if you could help me out, I greatly appreciate it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your testimonies as well.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to now open for virtual panelists. We will be calling individuals one by one to testify. Once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant at Arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant at Arms to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start with Michael Sositsky, then we'll move to Tanisha Grant, and then Christopher Leon Johnson. We'll start with Michael.
You may begin. Michael, if you can hear us, please unmute, and you may begin your testimony.
Thanks so much. So good afternoon. I'm Michael Sositsky, Assistant Policy Director with the New York Civil Liberties Union. So we really can't separate the increase in complaint activity that we've seen in recent years from this administration's really aggressive approach to policing. Stop and frisk activity has surged to levels that we've not seen since 2014. With staggering racial disparities. Low-level summonses and arrests have increased, vehicle stops have increased, the NYPD keeps creating specialized unit after specialized unit, neighborhood safety teams, public safety teams, community response teams, quality of life teams, euphemisms to obscure the reality of what they're doing, which is a full-throated embrace of broken windows policing, driving an unacceptably high number of unconstitutional and racially biased stops with little supervisory review, and no consequences or any kind of discipline, meaningful discipline, when these officers are violating New Yorkers' constitutional rights. And alongside all of this, we've seen a systematic effort by this administration to weaken external oversight. While some of the more egregious attacks on this oversight have been addressed, under this administration, we saw the CCRB forced to suspend entire categories of investigations due to budget cuts. We saw the NYPD invent deadlines out of thin air to justify their short statute of limitations policy. We've seen and still see a severe reduction in staffing for the Office of the Inspector General for the NYPD, having gone from 37 staff members at their peak in 2017 to just 3 filled positions as of last month. 3 people for an office meant to oversee the policies and practices of a department that employs around 34,000 uniformed officers and thousands more civilian employees. Whatever the NYPD professed here today about its commitment to discipline and accountability, we know that we will not find accountability from within the NYPD itself. There's hundreds of pages in the Federal Monitor's report on NYPD discipline that paint a full picture of a discipline system that is simply uninterested in disciplining officers. The CCRB and the Office of the Inspector General are by no means perfect entities, but they provide something that the public desperately needs, which is independent investigations into the NYPD. Those agencies need to be resourced. They need to have the tools that they need to have the direct access to the information that they need to complete their investigations and fulfill their mandate. And the council must also be doing more to be reining in the abusive tactics being employed by officers themselves that are driving misconduct. We need that accountability on the back end, but we also need to be doing more to cut off the harms, the harassment, the racial profiling, and the excessive force that officers are using in communities in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Tanisha Grant.
You may begin.
Hello. Give me a second. Hello, Chair Salam and fellow Public Safety Committee City Council members. My name is Tanisha Grant, and I am the founder and executive director of Parent Support in Parents New York. We are one of the organizations supporting the family of Sanaya Cheatham, who died in police custody at the very tender age of 18. Supporting the family of Sanaya has been very difficult. Ms. Thomasina Cheatham has lost her only daughter. Sanaya's brothers have lost their only sister. After having a great day, Sanaya somehow ended up dead in the 41st precinct in the early hours of July 5th. Her family are still waiting for answers. Death in police custody is more than traumatic. It is often avoidable, and it more often than not goes unpunished. It is the NYPD's job to keep folks safe while they are in custody. This young Black girl has been given very little attention and compassion by this administration. Ms. Thomasina remains in limbo, trying to figure out why her 18-year-old Black daughter is dead. The police are not above the law. Our billionaire commissioner, hired by a corrupt mayor, is not above the law. Actions speak louder than words, and the actions of the police and the so-called oversight are non-existent. CCRB findings are often overturned, like in my good friend Delron's Small case, when the officer who killed him on video is still a police officer. Delron was a childhood friend I met while we both were in foster care as children. We are still grieving that loss and the lack of accountability. Wayne Isaacs should not have a job. There will never be trust between our communities and NYPD as long as they continue to be above the law and go unpunished when our families are somehow unalived in police custody. Ms. Thomasina Cheatham and her family deserve answers. The 41st precinct in the Bronx should be held accountable for the death of Sanaya. At the end of the day, they are negligent, and they should be criminally charges against the police station and everyone who was on duty. I'm almost finished. The CCRB should have more power to punish these officers who are killing our loved ones. As Black parents, we are so afraid every time our children leave the house because we know they aren't safe. One of the reasons they aren't safe is because the NYPD does whatever it wants. The ability the NYPD has to investigate itself only works for them. We must end qualified immunity. Chair Salam, please fight for our communities. Please fight for Sanaya Cheatham. Her family really needs transparency and answers on what happened to Sanaya. Thank you for listening to my testimony.
Thank you.
Next we'll go to Sama Sise.
You may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Salam and members of the City Council. My name is Sama Sise. I'm an attorney at the Center for Constitutional Rights. And I'm going to just really build on what a lot of the other attorneys and Michael from NYCLU talked about, which is the NYPD's refusal to adequately discipline officers who engage in unconstitutional stop and frisk practices. So the Center for Constitutional Rights, along with Beldock, Levine, and Hoffman, have been, for unfortunately over a decade, lead plaintiffs' counsel in the Floyd versus City of New York litigation that led to the current federal monitorship of the NYPD's stop, question, and frisk practices. Something that's often not discussed about the court's order in Floyd is that the decision really pointed to the fact that discipline was important and remains important to stopping unlawful SQF practices in New York City. One of the orders that the court made of the NYPD was to give more deference to the investigations being conducted by the CCRB, because the CCRB is independent, right? It's an independent city agency that's staffed with experienced lawyers and investigators who are able to do the work that they've been tasked to do. The CCRB has jurisdiction to investigate improper stop, question, and frisk allegations under the abuse of authority category. But over 11 years later, after this court order, the NYPD has failed to comply. NYPD officers are rarely disciplined for unconstitutional stop and frisk, even when substantiated by the CCRB. And Chair Salam mentioned the Yates report, which is a recent discipline report that was submitted to the judge in the Floyd monitorship. And in the report, they show that the CCRB findings are not given deference as required by the court order. Oftentimes they're ignored. NYPD police commissioners have consistently exercised their unfettered authority over discipline to excuse officers of SQF misconduct by stating that they're just acting in good faith. And even when the misconduct
Thank you
is
for your testimony. Your
confirmed,
time's expired.
Thank you. What I will add at the end is that we submitted, my testimony has been submitted on the record, but also the plaintiff's counsel and the Floyd federal monitorship. We put together a list of various recommendations regarding the NYPD discipline system as it relates to stop, question, and frisk, and that was included and submitted as well. And we would really appreciate the City Council to review some of the recommendations in that document. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Christopher Leon Johnson.
Hello, my name is Christopher Leon Johnson, and I want to make this clear. I know that very soon that I won't be able to say the stuff I want to really say, but while I'm at it, I'm able to say it. But I think that this hearing today was nothing but a sham because the CCRB, let's make that clear, that the CCRB works with the NYPD. Why won't the committee start calling out the CCRB themselves to really work with NYPD to where that the reason that these cops in these committees, these NYPD cops can do what they want because the CCRB are complicit with what they do. We go to these hearings at CCRB, make our complaints, and nothing ever happens because you start finding out that these guys and gals work together, and some of you guys are affiliated with the same cliques and cliques like Freemasonry and Rotary clubs and Lions clubs and all these type of clubs and these other cliques, and they work together. And I'm calling in the city council to make it where that the police commissioner should not appoint any member of the CCRB because that's like a big conflict of interest. Why you have a committee where you have Joe Fox on the committee and everybody know that guy has a history, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna protect the cops. He's gonna protect the cops that works that he's boys and gals with. And it's like I said, people gotta start really looking to these cliques, to these these fraternal organizations that work hand in hand with the police unions. And people gotta start calling these ethical like the New York Dominican organization and New York Hispanic and the Guardians and all these organizations that work hand in hand with the police, working hand in hand with the unions, and that go work hand in hand with the CCRB. And like I said, people, like I said before, no, this is about to happen soon because the Raw Rivera rule that I'm gonna say this right now before I end here. Like I said, people got to start calling out the Freemasons in the city council because when you start calling the Freemasons in the city council, this really picks up all the stuff that happens. Picks up all that happens within police corruption and how the city council is complicit.
Thank you for your testimony. Your
The
time's
police
expired.
corruption. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are anyone that has not been recognized that wishes to be recognized, you may use the raise hand feature virtually. And if there's no one that has raised their hand, that concludes today's business. Thank you for your testimony.